And recently, at the AMA Litigation Center meeting, Dr. Robert Young, with Doctors for Responsible Gun Ownership, had the opportunity to talk with some of his colleagues about this, and he joins us on the program right now. Dr. Young, thank you, sir, for your time today.
Yeah, I'm happy to be back. How are you?
I am good. It's good talking with you again. And tell me, how did it come to pass that somebody who is not just a member of the AMA, but a member of the NRA is addressing the American Medical Association about the Firearm Owners Privacy Act?
I was invited, believe it or not.
Well,
one of the things I've written a few months ago was, I forgot where it went, but an article on that, what I thought about it. And the general counsel of the AMA, very nice man, who wanted to put on a panel discussion of this act because it is one of the court issues that the AMA has taken an amicus role in its case, of course, on the opposite side of the NRA and the Florida people on our side. So he had plenty of people to argue against the act. There was there were supposed to be two of the plaintiffs there. One was a pediatrician at the University of Miami, and two attorneys. One, the Florida Medical Association's attorney, who initially had worked on trying to negotiate elements of the act before it was passed, and then the attorney for the plaintiffs currently. And he really wanted, to his credit, somebody who could speak to the opposite side of the question, so that I hope and I believe, to educate folks about what the reasons could actually be to want such an act. He happened to run across that article. He called me.
And so what did you tell your colleagues about why you support this law, the Firearms Owner Privacy Act?
Well, I tried to explain to them why there are large parts of the world, our nation, and Florida in particular in this question, who think differently from them, who don't see guns as an intrinsic danger, who are very worried about getting the fact of their gun ownership noted routinely in doctors' electronic databases, where they can ultimately get folded into a national database. The importance to many people of preserving their privacy around that. And the fact that, unfortunately, by the time this act was proposed, too many Floridians had been not just asked, but bullied by their doctors about owning guns, and actually told that you shouldn't own a gun. You got 43 times more chance of getting killed by your own gun than by somebody else's, which is actually totally false. But it was a good experience. They all listened attentively. We got lots of good questions from the audience. I was very glad to have gone.
Well, good. I'm glad that you went as well. And you make a good point by going, Dr. Young, and that is that certainly not every doctor out there in this country, even if they are members of the American Medical Association, agrees with the decision by the MAA to get involved as a friend of the court in this case. I'm wondering, when you were there, did you actually have any of your colleagues come up to you and express their support, say thank you for doing what you're doing?
Yes. A couple came up afterwards and said exactly that. Interestingly, the medical professionals, while we are very bright people and we spend a lot of time in school, I'm afraid are as likely to defer to authority as anyone else. And one of my beliefs is that you should always question your authorities. So a lot of folks in the room stood up and said, "Hey, I'm a gun owner. I'm from Colorado. I'm from Montana. I've got 35 guns myself, but I don't think anybody should be telling me at all what I can or should say or ask my patients." I thought that was really interesting, because if folks like that thought a bit more, and my only goal was to try to get people to think a bit more, they'd realize that they themselves would be really bothered if one of their doctors told them they shouldn't have their 35 guns. And that's really the issue, because that's how this all started, as you well know. The American Academy of Pediatrics 20-some years ago, and then some other specialty associations, the AMA, my own, the American Psychiatric Association, all got in bed with what then were the gun banning organizations, by name, title, as well as intention, who have tried to ameliorate that image in more recent years. And once that happened, and once the official positions were defined at that point, despite the efforts of some people you and I know, like Tim Wheeler, who leads DRGO, they've never changed. I even had one guy come up and do nothing but read the APA's position paper to me from his iPad, as if he thought somehow telling me that would change my mind about disagreeing with it. I don't know. That's the kind of thing that happens, though, when you talk to people who haven't heard the other side of the story, and they need to.
You're exactly right. Listen, Dr. Young, thank you so much, sir, for coming on the program and for what you're doing. I appreciate it, and look forward to talking again very soon.
Thank you, too, Cam. Take care, please.
You too. Dr. Robert Young, join us with Doctors for Responsible Gun Ownership.